Well, howdy folks, and welcome to Late Night Video. And on this week's episode, we will be talking about Millionaire's Express, aka Shanghai Express from 1986, written and directed by the great Sammo Hung. I am a massive fan of Hong Kong cinema, especially the 70s, 80s, and early to mid 90s stuff. And I'm especially a fan of stuff with the kind of the three musketeers of Hong Kong, and that's your Jackie Chan, Sammo Hung, and Yuen Biao. And this fantastic film stars both Sammo Hung and Yuen Biao. And in those of you, most of you, many of you, some of you, I don't know, can't speak for what you know and don't know, I'm sure you know Jackie Chan. But when he was coming up, he had his two buddies, Sammo Hung and Yuen Biao. And Sammo started getting some attention here in the States as well. But poor Yuen Biao, who is actually my favorite of the three, never seemed to break out over here for some reason or another. But he is a great, great actor, comedian, and martial artist. Alright, the story. Basically, Millionaire's Express, aka Shanghai Express, is, as I said, it's a martial arts western comedy. And it takes place in a Wild West style town. The town itself is not doing too well. So the kind of ne'er-do-well Sammo Hung, who actually has a heart of gold even though he's a ne'er-do-well, strikes out into the world in an attempt to bring back some wealth to the failing town. And so he kind of hatches this little scheme and sabotages a train full of rich people so that it has to stop near the town and bring in a bunch of wealth and people with money into the town. I know that doesn't sound like much of a setup for a martial arts film. It kind of more so plays with the comedic elements of the movie. But there's a bunch of wacky, different, unusual people on this train, and chaos and hijinks ensue. And that's all I really want to say about that, because, again, don't want to give any spoilers. And it's a comedy. It's so easy to spoil good humor. Characters / acting. As I said, this one stars not only Sammo, but Yuen Biao. And those two are great. They have a great chemistry. And I think people have this tendency to not give comedians or martial artists the credit they deserve when they're good actors. And I mean, it takes just as much to be a good convincing comedian as it does a dramatic actor, in my opinion. And Sammo and Yuen Biao are both fantastic in this movie. When they're together, their chemistry, their dynamic is great, and their chemistry and dynamic with everyone else is really good. Sammo brings in this group of prostitutes with him. He travels with prostitutes. He's just that kind of cool fella. And his dynamic with them are really good. They're all really good. And it also has appearances by Australian martial artist Richard Norton, as well as Cynthia Rothrock. And interestingly, they played the bad guys in the movie. They're this strange, they look like Union soldiers, for whatever reason, that come in and try to take over the town. And, as I said, chaos ensues. Effects. This is a martial arts comedy western, so there's not really any effects. So I'll just talk about the fighting, the fight scenes, and just what you would expect from Sammo and Yuen Biao, who are both phenomenal martial artists and I'd say acrobats as well. A lot of really good stuff right there. In the beginning, Yuen Biao's character is a fireman, and there's the scene where it's basically the police of the city decide, hey, we're going to rob the bank. So the police start a fire and are robbing the bank, and the poor firemen are trying to put out the fire and doing the acrobatics and stuff. And it's a great scene. Again, I don't want to give away too much because it's just so much fun to it. And there's just some great choreographed fight scenes and battles, especially, as I said, the kind of weird Union soldier guys are kind of the bad guys, but there's also three Japanese samurai-esque people there that have the secret map, and they're also kind of the bad guys, but not really as bad as the Union guys. It's a strange ensemble fun cast. The music. The music is exactly what you would expect and hope for from a 1986 Hong Kong film. It hits in all the bases, and any of you who've seen that kind of cinema know exactly what I'm talking about, and it is wonderfully done, and just that great Western but 1986 Hong Kong. Sleaze. Unfortunately, there is no sleaze to be found in this movie, other than there is a very sleazy character who is kind of cheating on his very unpleasant wife. But I wouldn't really count that as sleaze per se. But this is again a martial arts western comedy. Didn't need any sleaze. I know that probably sounds weird to hear me say that. Is it wacky? So wacky. Yes, it is. As I said, it is a comedy, and it is full of wacky, strange, unusual, great characters. As I mentioned before, the guy who's cheating on his wife. There's this phenomenal scene where they're still on the train, and he actually sneaks out of the train on top of the train and goes around to his mistress's room. And then once they're in the town and they're at the hotel, there's this fantastic scene where he's having to hide, but all these different people are in the room trying to hide as well. And there's a nice little twist on the joke. Really funny. And I guess I should have mentioned that before. This movie is actually really funny. I laughed out loud several times the first time I watched it, and it takes a lot for me to laugh out loud. So, yeah, it definitely delivers on that. I'd actually say it's even more so a comedy than it is anything else. Rating. I will give this 5 random Richard Nortons out of 5. Love this movie. As I said, it's probably my second favorite martial art, or did I say that? I've kind of done a couple of takes here. It wasn't going real smooth today. But yeah, it's probably my second favorite martial arts film of all time. One of my favorite comedies. Just a phenomenal film. Highly recommended it. Recommended. And I've always seen it with the dub. And I personally love those 70s, 80s, and early 90s dubs. I just think they're so charming and add such a charm to whatever it is. So, Millionaire's Express. Do check it out and find it. Well, that's all the time we have for this week. Thanks for watching, and keep it wacky.